Nigerian Economic Summit Group, as part of its commitment to driving activities that will advance the economy, hosted a workshop on low-carbon investment opportunities in Nigeria. It brought together stakeholders in the energy, business, finance, and government space. CEO of NESG, Mr. Laoye Jayola, said the forum was an opportunity to explore how the economy can be deepened through low-carbon investments.
It's so painful that we sit as a gas nation and yet we don't have power. And it's so pathetic that 40 to 60%, depending on what you're talking about, of all our harvests go to waste. All because we're not harnessing resources in a very coordinated manner. And what we're trying to do is to make sure there is some level of coordination. And government will tell you they need help, and they really do need help. That's why we are collaborating to make sure we bring this to pass.
Chairman of the occasion and Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, shared her expectations from the workshop.
One challenge that we often forget to address is for us as a country to avoid importing discarded equipments, motor vehicles, transformers from developed countries, because these are equipments that we bring in into our country that increase the carbon emissions in our country. So we should look at how we can mitigate those kind of, stop those kind of imports. There are resources globally available that we can take benefit of by reducing our carbon dioxide emission into the atmosphere, and by reducing global warming. There are funds available that if we keep our records and show records of what we're doing, we can take advantage of. Working together with NESG and with the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, we should be able to, with companies also operating in the sector, bridge the data gap that we have in the country, provide adequate data on the gas that is actually flared by compelling the companies to measure the gas flaring, and also to provide those measurements for interested investors that want to capture those flared gases to invest in and turn into useful power. I hope that the objectives of this meeting is met, that we will be able to demonstrate at the end of the meeting today how the policy alignment of the NDC, the ERGP, and the National LPG Adoption Program can drive growth and deliver new opportunities as well as new jobs for achieving youth. That will be able to demonstrate gas commercialization can help to deliver sustainable growth. That will be able to establish inclusiveness as an important tool for development, to show the alliance of different stakeholders across the value chains, and also show the linkages between those value chains. I hope we will set the agenda to establish impact investment as a mechanism to attract new investments into our country.
The Managing Director of the Nigerian Incentive Risk-Based Sharing System for Agric Lending, Mr. Aliyu Abdul Hamid, gave an insight into how NERSAL is catalyzing low-carbon investments in the country.
There are two key areas where we need to apply, particularly what is the topic today. How do we apply our abundant gas resource in Nigeria to the field of agriculture and make more economic sense to the field of agriculture? One area is in primary production. In Nigeria, we are still dependent on a single season of rain-fed agriculture. How do we do multiple croppings per annum? We know that crops contribute up to 85% of the GDP of agriculture. Livestock, fishery, poultry contribute about 15%. The crop segment is 85%. That 24% you see contribution to GDP of agriculture, 85% of it is done by plant-based output. Can we get modular rice mills that are optimized enough, like 10 or 20 of them in a place, in the center of primary production of rice, for example, in Kebbi, or Sokoto, or Ebonyi, and then say, okay, you have a common service facility in terms of energy supply, in terms of electricity, but how do you fuel it? Can the gas industry be able to then support us by creating a logistics system, a pricing system, a delivery system that can give us that gas we need in the embedded cluster at the location that we need it. So that what comes out of that cluster is not rice in husk, is not cows on legs, but what comes out is beef that is chilled, that is cut, that is ready to be consumed. Rather than you transporting animals all the way on foot from northern Nigeria to southern Nigeria, where you're transporting blood, you're transporting horn, you're transporting waste. Why not cut the animal? Gut it, cut it, freeze it, compress it, put it in a container, chill it, and deliver it to market. So this creates the kind of economy that is amenable to financing. Anything we do less than that, even our own job as catalyzers of finance cannot work in agriculture. You have got to create the framework and the system that allows finance to see clarity. I put my money in here, I see an efficient system, I see an outcome that works economically.
Key dignitaries at the workshop give their takeaways and the role their ministries, parastatals, and organization is playing in the area of renewable energy investments.
As a nation, we're not priding ourselves that we're the number 7 in terms of gas flare nations, the League of Gas Flare Nations. And just like in the typical football league, where you want to be number 1 in the league, Nigeria, as a sovereign nation, we want to get out of that gas flare league. And the reason is this. Over time, for the past 55 plus years, we've been flaring gas since we started oil and gas exploration in present-day Bayelsa State. And so what we're looking to do is to bring in competent third-party investors with proven technology and, of course, demonstrable project experience to harness this gas that is currently being flared and convert them to market products. So for us, what we're trying to do now is to put up a robust and transparent competitive bidding process. So the Honorable Minister and, of course, the President, in line with the Petroleum Act, is invoking paragraph 35B subsection 1 of the first schedule to say federal government has in the interest of the public to take the gas that is currently being flared without payment of royalty. So we are now inviting competent third parties to come and take this gas flare and, of course, convert them to beneficial reuse, maybe for LPG, power generation, methanol, fertilizers, and including feedstock for fishes. So those are all we're looking to achieving. And to underpin that, we've drafted a new regulation, the Gas Flare Prevention of Waste and Pollution Regulations 2018, which is presently with Mr. President for his consideration and signing it off. So that will underpin the implementation of the NGFCPD, the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program. As a nation, by our record in 2016, we flared about 286 billion cubic feet of gas. In terms of value erosion, we lost about approximately $800 million US. Now, if you look at the CO2 emissions, which is around 22 metric tons of CO2 that we emit, if we now try to convert it as part of our emission credit or carbon value, we're losing close to $250 million US. And that is what the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program is trying to reverse. So that at the end of each year, we want to net in as revenue income to the federal government account close to $1 billion US. Now, what this program would bring again to the Nigerian economy is that we're going to create close to 300,000 direct and indirect jobs, looking at close to 70 to 80 oil gas flare projects in the Niger Delta.
This platform provided by NESG is really a timely platform because obviously, as you can see from the presenters, it's like everyone has been in a silo. Today, the fact that we came together under the auspices of the NESG, we saw the relative value that each one of us can add to the common objective of reviving this economy. Take, for example, what is the connection between agriculture and oil and gas? What we presented today provides a nexus between, for example, gas flaring and the usage of that gas that is being flared to agriculture in 3 key areas. In providing energy to support massive irrigation systems, in providing energy to support mobile primary processing of agricultural produce, and in providing very clean, low carbon footprint energy for industrial value add processing. All these 3 elements that I mentioned are relevant in the agricultural value chain. You can produce all the raw material you have, but you cannot get real value except you do value addition through industrial processing. But how do you power up the industrial processing? You need a fuel system. How do you get clean fuel system? You need gas with very low carbon footprint. I think the event of today has shown clearly that there's a clear nexus between the gas industry and agriculture once it's applied to irrigation, to processing, and to industrial value add processing.
It's a very important initiative that we are keen on encouraging and supporting, because it's an initiative that is going to help to create new opportunities for entrepreneurship, new opportunities for jobs for our youth. And to cap it also, it's an opportunity that is going to help us to reduce the carbon emissions to further protect our environment.
In line with that, what are you actually doing to support organizations that have investments that will actually reduce carbon emissions? What is the ministry doing to support them?
Well, what we do is to encourage them to make sure that business environment is easier. If we know any challenges that they have, we try to help them solve those challenges. But there's also funding that is available internationally in the form of carbon credits that they can benefit from. And recently there's this green bond that the federal government has floated, which has been very successful. That is also another source of funding for industries that are operating in the sector that produces low carbon emissions.
Please, the customs recently introduced a duty on solar panels, and we are here encouraging, trying to grow the renewables and off-grid. Is this not in conflict with the policies and with this initiative, green bonds and all these ones you spoke about just now?
It's not a new duty that is introduced by the customs. It's a duty that was already existing and is on solar panels, and it is one of the things that we also have to address, because we actually want more concentration on solar power to improve the green environment.
My takeaway is a lot enlightening. Again, it is clear to you that people are doing things in silo. And because so long as they do it in silo, you can't have the aggregation and the strength. So ours is to continually pull people together. Because sometimes when you do the things in your silo alone, you feel you're tired. But if you realize that there are other people doing it, you learn and share experiences, and then you then can have traction to go. We're concerned about how we can have impact. Because for us, it is what do we need to do to give impact. And that's why we're trying to aggregate all those who are stakeholders in the area to come together, so we can have more impact in these areas.
With Nigeria's signing of the 2016 Paris Global Accord on Emissions, a great opportunity lies for the public and private sector players to engage and set up a clear roadmap for low-carbon investments through viable policies and key investments that will create jobs for a massive youth population in Nigeria.